Welcome to Here to Be Human, a multi-dimensional soul. This is not just a podcast, it's a remembering. A space where soul meets skin and the sacred meets the messy. Where spirit is not something you escape into, it's something you embody here in this beautiful, chaotic, breathtaking human life. Each episode is a living transmission, a weaving of energy, truth, reflection, and remembrance, with questions for your soul, messages from beyond, and invitations to meet yourself in ways you've never dared to before. Whether you're walking through shadow or starlight, you belong here. I am Julie, your guide, your mirror, your voice in the void. This is Here to Be Human, and you are right on time. You don't owe anyone your pain as proof. You are allowed to be whole without explanation. This is Here to Be Human, a multidimensional soul, Season 2, Episode 11, Beyond the Identity of the Wounded Healer, Wholeness Without a Story. So before we go into our segments, here is your reflection prompt to start our episode. So the prompt for you is, what stories have you carried about who you are because of what you've survived? And are they still serving you? So just take a moment here to pause, breathe, soften, and allow this question just to kind of really settle in. So what stories have you carried about who you are because of what you've survived? And are they still serving you? So again, you can just sit here and reflect for a few moments, or pause and write it in a journal. Beautiful. So let's start our first segment. For those who are new, I have 4 segments. We kind of go into teachings, channeling, and our last segment is integration of everything that we have really discussed and opened up in today's episode. So our first segment is the wound that becomes identity. So healing begins as necessity and then becomes a path. And then sometimes it becomes an identity. So what ends up happening is we start to call ourselves that we have endured, right? So in other words, we'll say, oh, I am the survivor, or I am the empath, or, oh, I am the healer. So it's always the one who always feels deeply, right? But when the wound becomes our home, we stop exploring who we might be beyond it. And this is what I was talking about in our previous episode. When we go into this cycle of just perpetual healing, we tend to label ourselves as something. And then once we give ourselves the label, it's really hard to move out of it, because then it's almost like as if we're the only ones that can change the label or take away the label completely. Where if someone gave you a label and said, oh, well, you're this and you're that, if it resonates with you in the moment, you go, yes, that makes sense. And if it doesn't, you go, well, that's all hogwash kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And you don't take it on board. But when you are on this journey and you're going through your healing, which I think healing is necessary, I think it helps us to evolve and to really recognize what actually took place or what is going on currently and what our belief systems are and how we identify with them. So healing is a necessity. I think it's really, really great. But again, if that is your path, then what ends up happening is, again, you give yourself a label, and then that wound is where you rest. That's your home. That's how you identify yourself. And then you can't see, or you don't allow yourself to see who you can become or who you are beyond that point of the label that you've given. Excuse me. So you have to remember that you are not your pain. Pain is subsequent of our human experience. You are the consciousness that met the pain. And you are always going to be the consciousness that meets the pain, that meets the fear, that meets the joy. because you are the soul that keeps on going. Even when no one could see what you were going through, you kept on going. And that is why it's important that we don't become the pain, that we recognize the pain and we work on it, through it, around it, whatever you're wanting to call it, as long as consciously you're meeting it as opposed to you becoming it. And that's why I think it's really important that if you are on a healing journey, try not to allow yourself, where possible, or recognize and have some discernment if someone else is doing this, keeping you in kind of like a locked up container where you're, these are the broken things of you and this is what needs to be fixed. And it's not about fixing anything, it's about recognizing what something is, how it's played a role in your life, good, bad, ugly, whatever the case may be. And then from that story, how do you transform that into a version of you that's evolved beyond that? That's the best way for me to describe what I feel like true healing does. It opens the door for you to experience something and then for your soul to integrate that learning, and then you keep on moving, and your experience may also help another person. So, your personal story prompt for your journal is: from your own experience, where have you had moments where you realized you'd built your identity around what you had overcome, until one day it felt too small to live inside that box? Just like I was saying before, when we give ourselves a label, or even if a healer or someone that's working with us gives us a label, we sit in this confined containment and then we can't expand from it. So again, from your own experience, where have you had moments where you realized you'd built your identity around what you had overcome, until one day you realized that all that felt too small for you to live inside and like anymore, you couldn't do it. So again, this is for your personal journal, so you can either write something out now. You may not have experienced this, maybe where you're in this kind of, you're starting to realize that you have become the identity of what you overcome. You became the identity of what you've overcome. But for others, you may have moved past this, and this is just a nice, I guess, turning point or pivotal moment where you can always look back on your writing to realize how far you've actually come. That's what I feel journaling, reflection prompts, any type of prompt that gets you to think about a moment in time, or currently where you're at, or somewhere where you'd like to evolve to. It just kind of, it shows the momentum that you're taking and the steps that you're taking to get to where you're wanting to go. Now, we're going to open up the space and ask Spirit like a question about, what is keeping us clinging to like this healer's cloak, even when we've already outgrown it. And a lot of times, and I've seen this through, when people tell me stories about either their own experience or like a friend of a friend, sometimes we keep going back to the same healer, or we keep trying to heal the same thing, but you've already outgrown it. Like, it's not a thing anymore. It's only if that becomes your identity. I think some people love going and getting energy healing work done, or going and seeing like practitioners or counselors on a regular basis, because it's not about like, if you're uncovering layers and depths to something that's quite big, that's still you evolving and growing. We're more talking about, it's you go from healer to healer to healer, and you think that you're not healed, but it's because you've got this identity that you must remain as the victim, or you must remain as XYZ. And so it just keeps kind of, like, no healer could heal something unless you're willing to release it and let it go. A healer is there to support your journey, to help you evolve and grow and look at things from different perspectives. Also kind of working with the energy of the universe to help move things along for you, and for you to have your own aha moments and your own connection during that time. But outside of that, they're not really they're not guiding your path per se where you need to see them every single day or you need to see them all the time. They're really just meant to kind of it's not even about holding space. It's really more about being there for you as you unlock the layers of what is going on. But never, we're not always going back over the same thing over and over and over again. That's just kind of like, if you're doing that, whether you're doing it by going and seeing a whole bunch of different healers, or a healer or practitioner is doing it over and over again, and you feel like now you're stuck, you're not moving forward, that feels like that's not healthy healing. That's just my opinion based on experiences I've personally had, based on experiences that I've seen people close to me and clients have gone through. And that's why I think it's important. Like, healing has a place, but true healing is about consistently moving forward and understanding the layers of who you are, which opens up a whole new page, a whole new way of viewing life, viewing yourself, and all that type of stuff. Alrighty, so our prompt for spirit in order to gain some channeling. So again, I always say to people, channel along with me. You can pause this, you can see what comes through for you, you can see how it aligns with what I'm getting through as well. So our question to spirit is, how can we honor our healing journey without making it our definition? So how can we honor our healing journey without making it our definition? How can we honor our healing journey without making it our definition? I feel like it's a little bit of what I just said without realizing that was that prompt. Let's have a look. See if there's anything else about our healing journey. I feel like it's important on our healing journey, in order to honor it, is to have moments of reflection. So kind of like what I was saying about having a journal to see where you've grown, making sure that you and the person that you're working with is keeping you moving forward and understanding all of the layers that are coming through. But I also feel like it's understanding that it's just a part of what it is that you do. There are so many other things that are bringing healing on your journey without necessarily having to make it all about an aspect of the healing journey. Meaning, every time that you are connecting with people, every time that you are shifting your perspective, whether it's through research or journaling or reading books or courses or just in your everyday life, all of that allows us to honor our healing journey without defining it. Like, a lot of the times, you don't sit there going like, oh, this book defines me, but I got so much insight from it. It's like but that's still healing, right? That's still part of your healing journey. You've been guided to read a book, and those insights created almost like a shift within you that you then have now moved forward with it. So we honor our healing journey by acknowledging that most of the time we are processing things without realizing it. We're processing conversations, we're processing situations, and that forms the healing journey. It's like, when you say, for example, I've seen this a lot with clients, where, they're processing the loss of someone, whether it is through death or the loss of, like, say, a breakup or the loss of losing their job, right? So they're processing this loss. And interestingly enough, they always end up meeting someone, whether it's like a romantic thing or just a stranger at a bar or someone at the shopping center. And everything, all the healing that they've done up until this point, sometimes for some people, not all people, but I've seen this a lot happen. They meet someone and it's either for a fleeting moment where someone says something to you that just allows you to fully see everything that you've been working on, like in this one instance. And it's like this integration process happens for you. And you're just like, That's my aha moment. I can now let this go. And that's all it took. It just took one person to say that to you. Same thing I've seen when it comes to relationships. It's like they've ended something that was very, very toxic, and then they meet someone down the track, and this person treats them differently, and this person kind of shows them what real unconditional love and acceptance is. And it may take some time for that person to fully realize it or fully feel like they're worthy of someone who exhibits those positive qualities in a relationship. But what ends up happening is there's always going to be an aha moment, whether it's because this connection, because that person has said something, or just because that person continuously shows up for you. And it's in that moment, it's like, oh, you can let go of all the past, but it's only because you've done the work up until this point. And doing the work doesn't always have to mean you need to go and see a healer. Doing the work is you allowing yourself to process your emotions and your thoughts, your feelings, and any physical sensations that are coming through when you are thinking about a time in your life where there was a lot of pain, or there was a lot of toxicity, or the situation was really negative for you. So you don't always have to go and see someone. It's always great though to kind of have someone to like listen to you, to give you some like, advice or offer a different perspective so you see the wider picture for you. But it's not always necessary. Some people can do it on their own as long as they're mindful of what is coming up, they allow to process it, and then they move forward. It's only when we're ignoring the signs and synchronicities from the universe that where we're like, the universe is trying to say, hey, like, I think you need to look at this now. Like, I think it's been a long time that you've suppressed it or you've bottled it up. And it's in those moments that people can get some great relief on what they have been bottling up, and it can kind of feel like an emotional release. Sometimes those who maybe suppress it a lot or bottle it up a lot, the universe will create tower moments, meaning that there might be blocks or obstacles from allowing you to move forward, because the universe is like, you need to work on this, because if you don't work on this, chances are, you'll go through the same lesson, but it might feel harder this time to get over. Or if you haven't healed this, you may hurt someone else in the process, even though you don't mean to. That's why it's important to honor your healing journey on a regular basis, meaning that look at everything that's going on in your world, because everything is providing data to you, to your mind, your emotions, your body, your soul. All of that information is coming into you, and that energy field is like processing it all, and your biological cells are processing it all, and that forms a level of healing. I'm a big believer in that. A lot of times people say they love like the energy healing work and that type of stuff, and I can definitely do it, and I've done it in the past. It's just it doesn't light me up, so I don't really do it. And so I am really particular about how important words can help someone heal. And so for me, conversations are enlightening. I'm really fortunate and very, very grateful to have amazing clients who are open to obviously what I do, but open to the dialogue that comes from spirit, from me, and between me and them, but also in my very intimate circle. I'm talking family, friends. The conversations I have with these people are never boring. There's depth, there's laughter, there's joy, there's frustration, but everything is there in order for me to grow and to evolve as the human that I am, the human version of who I am. And I feel the same thing happens for them, which is why I think, like I said, those who are in my immediate circle, my very intimate circle, there's just there's profound movement and shifts in perspective, even if we're just talking about a recipe. And I think when you get to that stage of having those type of people in your life, it means that there's always healing undertaken, whether you realize it or not. And again, healing isn't about just, oh, I need to fix this, or I need to, like, this is bad, I need to fix it, I need to get better. Healing is just literally a way of your body releasing stuff from past lives, from what you've carried up until this point, or what, what you're carrying on a regular basis. Like, you don't go to a healer, get healed, and then life is perfect. Like, life is messy. And so that's why it's important to honor your healing journey without defining that this is what it is, because it's happening all around us all the time. I feel like that's a really long way to answer that question, but anyway, I think it was necessary. If that's kind of how it came across, so I do apologize if it was long-winded. Okay, so your journal prompt here for your own inner reflection. So you can write this down and either come back at it at a later stage or pause here and see what comes through. But it is, what identity are you still wearing because it once kept you safe? So, what identity are you still wearing because it once kept you safe? Okay. So, now moving on to segment 2. So, this is when healing becomes a mask. So, there comes a quiet point in the journey when you realize you no longer need to prove that you have healed, quotation marks. But it can feel strange, sometimes lonely, to put down the story that once defined you. Okay? And sometimes we keep performing our pain because it's familiar and because people relate, or people can relate to us in that space because the story gave us purpose, right? But peace doesn't require an audience. Wholeness doesn't need a reason. You can let the mask drop and you can let your light be unexplainable. Let me say that again. You can let your mask drop and you can let your light be unexplainable. So if people have only known you in the darkness and they like seeing you in the darkness because it gives you purpose or it gives them purpose or whatever is going on, those people are not your people. People who want to see you shine, who are not afraid of your light, without you having to explain, oh, I've healed this and I've done that and da da da. People just want to see you in the light, always. Real people, your people, that's what they want. Those who want to keep you small, those who want to keep you in the same story of your past or the pain that you've been in, again, they are not your people. That doesn't mean that they can't hang out with you or that you can't be around them, but it's important to recognize that you don't hold yourself back and stay in the darkness just because it makes someone else happy or it makes someone else's life easy, whatever the reason is. So, here is your personal story prompt. From your own experience, where have you had seasons where you caught yourself retelling your healing story because it felt safer than simply saying, I'm okay now? So, from your own experience, where have you had seasons where you caught yourself retelling your healing story because it felt safer than simply saying, I'm okay now? I'm not talking about milestone posts of something that you've healed or you've overcome. I'm talking about all the time telling the same story, right? Rather than saying, like, if someone says, oh, how are you going? Like, are you okay? Are you still mourning that? Yeah, you still going through the breakup or whatever people ask you. And us as humans, I feel like a lot of the times, if someone hasn't seen you for a long time, or it's like the same thing they say, like, when people say, like, so how's the weather? Or you meet someone for the first time, what do you do for work? It's like, oh, come on. Can we have more exciting conversations? Can we, let's shake it up a little bit. When you're retelling that same story over and over and over again, that's kind of what I'm saying. So when people say, like, oh, are you doing okay? Like, with the whole face of like if you went through a divorce and they're expecting you to say, oh no, it's terrible and I'm still grieving or whatever it is. It's important if you have overcome something that you actually say, I'm okay now. I'm living my best life. I'm doing this or that type of stuff. That's where I want you to kind of look at, well, have I been retelling that story because that's kind of how it felt okay. That's what people wanted me to say, that I'm not okay. But really you are because you've kind of worked through things. That's what I'm asking you in your journal prompt about, like, where are you retelling your healing story rather than simply just saying you're okay now, if you are really okay. Okay. So let's invite Spirit to speak about what liberation looks like when we stop identifying with the wound. So, our question to Spirit is, how do we walk with our story but not live inside it? So, how do we walk with our story but not live inside it? I feel like it's really important when we are in the midst of healing a wound. That's what I'm going to say. It's important that along the way, we're acknowledging that wound and where it's at. So it's like, when you chip away at something, when you chip away at a wound that you're working through, it's not the same wound, right? But you're acknowledging that this piece has been removed. So say, for example, it's like a big rock, and so but we've chipped away at this piece and that one's healed, but we still have this fractured rock, so to speak, which is our wound. And we allow that wound to, like, we acknowledge where we are at with the wound and how much we've evolved thus far from it. But we don't allow ourselves to be the wound. That's what we're talking about when we're saying, like, we don't want to live inside it. So it's about being side by side with the wound. So I know it's still there. I know I've worked on this piece of it, and I still have these pieces to go because that's kind of, I'm going to chip away at it because that's how I want to do it. But just if you don't, like, what ends up happening is if you live inside it, then that becomes your identity. And we don't want that. We want it to be by your side where you're acknowledging it. But you're acknowledging it in a way of like, okay, you're here with me, and we're going to do this together. So, me and the wound, we're going to walk this world together until finally the wound has gone. I no longer identify with it. I no longer need it for anything. I no longer feel like it has a hold on me. Right? Now, can we ever remove all our wounds? I don't feel so. If we're looking at it from a realistic perspective, yes, you can clear a lot of stuff, and yes, your perspective on it can be different, and it doesn't have a hold on you, so it's not affecting you anymore. But you have memories of the wound. Now, the memories may not trigger the wound, but the memories are there. So is it right to say that when you heal something, it disappears? No. I think as a human being, the memory is there if you ever need to revisit it, but you'll find that the wounding doesn't have an effect on you anymore. Not on your emotions, not on physical sensations, not on your thoughts. Even if it does, it might be really slight. It may not move you in a negative way. It might move you in a positive way to be like, wow, look at what I've overcome. That's how we walk with our story. That's how we walk with our wounding, is that we know that it's not about removing it completely. It's about how it affected us in the past, and how can I shift things in my world as I'm chipping away at the understanding or the layers of the healing in order for me to respond differently to a wound that happened XYZ years, months, weeks, days ago. That's kind of how we can work with it without living inside it. Living inside it means this is my identity of it. If you remove it from your identity and be like, I'm just working on this thing because it's time, because it's, it's had a hold of me for so many years or so many months. That's how we walk with our story. So your prompt here is, have you built identity around your pain, and what might remain if you gently laid that story down? Have you built identity around your pain, and what might remain if you gently laid that story down? So, again, you can write this out, pause here, and reflect now or reflect later. Okay. It's moving on to our next segment, the right to be whole. Now, this is really important. You are allowed to be whole. You're allowed to be soft and safe. You're allowed to feel joyful without any guilt. And you're allowed to be quiet without any shame. Wholeness doesn't erase what you lived. It simply means you no longer orbit around it. And you can stop excavating what's already integrated. I'm going to say that again. You can stop excavating, meaning trying to, keep at that wound with what's already integrated. This is why it's important that we move away from identifying with the wounding and start to step into a level of wholeness. Remember, you're not broken. There's nothing to fix. It's just we're moving through life and things happen and they affect us. And then we just want to understand why they affect us and how can we move past it from affecting us in the same manner again that brought us pain and sadness. And you can also let your peace stand without justification. It's okay for you to be happy. It's okay for you to feel peaceful. It's okay for you to live your life the way you want to live it. A lot of people don't understand when they see someone else happy. And if you were around for all of that COVID time, and even I think it was like even before COVID, but like during COVID, it ramped it up because everyone was on social media because there wasn't really much we could do. A lot of people resonated with those who would share their anguish. And then those who shared their happiness, people would, like, not all the time, but people would attack aspects of it. I'm not talking about, the fake influencing thing of like waking up with a full face of makeup, being like, oh, I just woke up and this is my day. No, you didn't. You set up the tripod and shit like that. Anyway, I'm more talking about people genuinely happy and then people on social media having a go at them for being happy when it's kind of really, really warped. And I think this is why a lot of people who do allow their wounding to be their identifier is because, people feel sorry. You have a sense of like validation from your experience. And those things, they're all valid, right? It's when they become the thing that you connect with. And I think we need to be excited for people who are doing the work and have transformed their lives and are happy. That doesn't mean that they aren't going through hardships in other aspects. Like we're human, there's always ups and downs, but it's okay to be happy for someone else. And it's okay for you to be happy and not to justify why you're happy. You're just friggin' happy, or you're just very much at peace. And sometimes the most spiritual sentence you'll ever say is, I am no longer in that story. And I remember a friend of mine when I'm part of this book collaboration that's going to be released. And so when this episode comes out, I'm not sure if it's released at that point. No, it wouldn't be. I don't think so. Maybe. Anyway, um, when this book gets released, it's a book collaboration, and I'm talking about my story in there, right? My transformation story, and a lot of it is about being a medium as a child and kind of what I went through, and building this business that I have, and really wanting to be of service, but then also along the way of certain things, trials and tribulations, and even like a relationship that I was in the past, which is a long time ago now. And I remember saying to my friend, like, it's okay, it's done, it's been edited, it's all in there, da da da. It's going to be released, eventually. And I said to her, I was like, there's some stuff in there, and I was just like, it's weird. It's kind of like I've let go of all that stuff, but the story's going to come out in this book, years. So I wrote this chapter. Oh wow, must be like 3 years now. It was back in 2023, early to mid 2023. Yeah, wow. Okay, so by the time it's released, yeah, it would have been 3 years. And I remember saying to her, like, when this book gets released, it's no longer my story. Like, well, how do I connect with all of like that type of stuff? And she said to me, she's like, well, it's done now. She's like, it's no longer, the story doesn't belong to you anymore. The story is out there for someone else to see if it resonates with them, and if it brings them healing, or if it brings them a level of empowerment to make certain moves or changes in their life. She's like, you've done your job. She goes, it's no longer your story. You don't resonate with it. It's not your identity. And so it doesn't matter if someone interviews you about the book, or someone brings this up, at a later stage. It's no longer your story. It's now someone else's, I guess, lighthouse to see if they can shift their life, if they're resonating or aligning with what you've gone through, with what they're currently going through. And I thought it was an amazing way to look at it. And the moment she said it, I was like, yeah. And so now that it's coming out, now it's 3 years in the making, it's no longer my story. But I'm happy that it's out. I'm happy that someone else may read it, and if it, inspires them, then great. That's all really that was about. So, here's your personal story prompt for you. From your own experience, where have you had a moment where peace finally felt normal and you almost didn't recognize it because you were so used to the pain, the ache? I'm going to say that again. From your own experience, this is for your journal prompt. You can do it now or later on. Where have you had a moment where peace finally felt normal, but you almost didn't recognize it because you were so used to the pain, that ache that you were feeling? So again, you can pause here, or you can come back to this at a later stage. We're going to ask Spirit our last question for this episode. So, what does soul level wholeness feel like beyond identity? What does soul level wholeness feel like beyond identity? It feels like a sense of lightness in the body, meaning like you flow, like it's like you flow through life. That doesn't mean there aren't like obstacles or things that you have to deal with, but you feel lighter. Like you feel lighter in your body, you feel lighter in your mind. It's almost like as if the thing that may have caused you the biggest pain, the thing that you were sitting with, it's like it no longer consumes you. Um, Again, that doesn't mean that you may have overcome it at this point, but when you do soul level work, and when you allow yourself to be that whole version, and being whole isn't perfect, it's not a perfect circle. Being whole is accepting all the parts of you. And whatever it is that you're wanting to work on, you work on it and you take your time, you chip away. But you always remember that you're whole, that you're not broken, that you don't need fixing, and there isn't a part of you that's missing. The more that you sit in that and you feel into it, there's a sense of relief. It's like, well, I don't have to perform anymore. I don't have to pretend anymore. I can say how I'm feeling, whether it's good, whether it's sad. I can talk about things if I want to. If I don't want to, then I won't. It's kind of like just allowing the true version of your identity to start to peek through so you can begin to see who that is. Because then all of a sudden, you're not latching onto any label as an identity. You're just like, well, this is who I am. So, and I think that's really important. Like, I know for myself, for a really, really long time, I wasn't even for like, I think even as a child, I've never really liked labels. I think society gives us labels in order to make it easy for them to understand what it is that we're saying or what we believe in. So I understand why it's happened, but I think it's up to us to not let the label become our identity. And a lot of times I remember like, so I've had different diets along the way, and when I'm using this as an example, because like there were times where I didn't feel like I wanted to eat meat, and that would last for like a couple of years, and other times it would last for a couple of months or whatever it was. Because I kind of go with what my body tells me. I'm a little bit more intuitive in how I want to eat and how my body says that you need a little bit more of this today or that today. So I'm not saying that I'll eat meat for the rest of my life. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll be like, oh, you know what? I just want to take a break from it because that's what it feels like. But I remember everyone wanted to label. If I said, no, I'm not, no, I'd prefer not to eat that. It'd be like, oh, so you're vegetarian? No. You vegan? No. But the thing is, everyone wants a label to understand what you have just exposed about yourself. And I think the more that you move away from a label, you then train other people to also move away from like a label from you. Like I don't identify as anything other than me, Julie. And what does that mean? That means, today I'm podcasting. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing readings all day. The day after that I might be doing. So I'm a multi. That's why this podcast is called A Multidimensional Soul. I am multifaceted in the things that I enjoy, and the things that I enjoy, I try and put out into the world. That's what soul level wholeness feels like. Does it mean I'm always happy? No. There's days that I'm sad. There's days that I'm frustrated. But there's a lot of days I'm really, really grateful for what and who is in my life. And I think focusing on those things allow you to feel this lightness. And so that's why, like, people go, oh, you're a medium. I'm like, well, yeah, like, look, that's the business's name. Because obviously I just can't say like Julie. And then people go like, well, what is it that you do? I'm like, ah. So those things, like I said, certain labels are required for us as humans to understand what it is that you're presenting. But labels that are defying your identity and keeping you small, they're the ones that need to be let go of. And only you can let go of those. And only you can correct others who place a label on you. So, your journal prompt is, your medicine is not your pain. It's your presence. And your presence is enough. So I want you to write this down, and I want you to sit with this and see how it makes you feel. Your medicine is not your pain. It's your presence. And your presence is enough. And just see how it makes you feel, see what comes up for you, and see how you can bring this into your world. What is it that you need to do? What are the steps you need to take in order for you to feel that your presence is enough? Now, for our integration ritual today, this is called I lay down what I no longer need to carry. So if it helps you to sit quietly and close your eyes, or even have a journal, and I want you to ask yourself, what story about my healing have I been holding onto? And am I ready to lay it down? What story about my healing have I been holding onto? And am I ready to lay it down? So write it out. What story about my healing have I been holding on to? And am I ready to lay it down? Once you've written it out, I want you to read it. You can do it out loud or just in your mind, as this will now be an act of gratitude. What story about my healing have I been holding on to? And am I ready to lay it down? Once you have written out what your reflection is on this, you've read it out loud as an act of gratitude, I want you then to say, I thank you for what you have taught me. I honor the wisdom I gained, but I no longer need you to define me. I am more than the wound. I am whole now, always. And just breathe and allow that truth to settle into your bones. And just ask yourself, who are you now without the identity of the wound? And just let that peace flow through you. Now remember, you don't have to keep reliving it to prove you've healed. You are allowed to rest, to laugh, to be light, to be free. Our next episode is Closing the Loop, Integration, Embodiment, and the Next Evolution. This is the last episode, episode 12, which is coming, of the season 2, and then there'll be a bridge episode to integrate, and then a pause. So until then, lay down the story, rise from the ashes, and live as a soul you already are. Thank you for being here fully. If today's episode stirred something in you, if you have a follow-up question, a reflection you'd like to share, or a way this conversation aligned with where you are right now, I'd love to hear from you. And if there are specific questions you'd like me to ask Spirit in future episodes based on what's coming up for you, send me a direct message at here.to.be.human.podcast on the Instagram page. Remember, your voice, your questions, your presence, they're part of this journey too. And if you'd like to connect with me more deeply, you'll find everything, sessions, programs, and updates over at www.moderndayMedium.com.au or on my Instagram page, which is at modern.day.medium. This is your invitation. This is the return. And this is what it means to be human. So until next time, stay with yourself, stay with your soul, and keep choosing this sacred, messy, and miraculous life.